John worked late, papers piled on his desk. The clock ticked past midnight. He was alone. He decided to take the elevator down. It was old and creaked. He pressed G for ground floor. The elevator lurched. It stopped. John frowned. Another floor lit up. B13. This was strange. B13 wasn't on the directory. He pressed G again, harder. Nothing happened. Then the doors slowly opened. Cold air rushed in. It smelled damp and old. The elevator was dark except for a single flickering light bulb. John hesitated. He was afraid, but he had to get home. He stepped inside. The doors slammed shut. The elevator plunged down, faster and faster. John's heart pounded in his chest. The light bulb exploded. Darkness, then silence. John was never seen again. Rain lashed the car. Sarah drove home, tired. The road was dark, unfamiliar. She had taken a wrong turn. She glanced at the GPS. No signal. She was lost. Headlights flickered in the distance. A gas station. Relief washed over her. She pulled in, engine sputtering. The place was deserted, one pump, dimly lit. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, thin face hidden by a hood. Sarah's hand trembled as she rolled down the window. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice shaky. "Can you help me? I'm lost." The figure slowly raised a hand, pointing to something behind her. Sarah turned. Behind her car, the road was gone. It ended in a sheer drop. Blackness yawned beneath. The apartment was perfect, spacious, sunny, and cheap. There was just one odd thing. A small, locked door in the corner. "What's behind there?" Emily asked the landlord. He chuckled nervously. "Old storage, nothing important." Days turned into weeks. Emily couldn't ignore the door. It called to her. One night, curiosity got the better of her. She picked the lock. The door creaked open. Inside, the air was cold and still. Dust covered everything. Emily stepped inside. As her eyes adjusted to the darkness, she saw them. Photos, hundreds of them, all showing the same thing. Her. Emily's blood ran cold. She was standing in a room filled with pictures of herself. The park was empty. Only Ben sat on the bench, reading. The sun dipped below the trees. Shadows grew long. Ben shivered. He was being watched. He looked around. Nothing. Then he saw it. A figure, half hidden behind a tree. Just a glimpse. Tall, thin, dressed in black. Ben's heart pounded. He wanted to run, but his feet felt glued to the ground. The figure moved closer, step by silent step. Ben's breath caught in his throat. He could see it more clearly now. Pale skin, dark, empty eyes. Ben closed his eyes, squeezing them shut. He couldn't look. He opened his eyes. The figure was gone. Ben let out a shaky breath. He was safe. Then, he saw it. A single black feather lying on the bench beside him. The old house creaked and groaned. Lily was used to it. She loved the history, the stories whispered in the walls, but lately the whispers had changed. They were louder, more insistent, and they seemed to be calling her name. One night a storm raged outside. The wind howled, the house shook. Lily lay in bed, listening to the storm, and the whispers. They were right outside her door now. Whispering, pleading. She couldn't take it anymore. She threw open the door. The hallway was dark, except for a faint light coming from the attic door. The whispers were coming from there. Lily took a deep breath and slowly climbed the stairs. The attic was cold and dusty. Cobwebs hung from the rafters, and in the center of the room, a single trunk lay open. Lily approached it cautiously. As she peered inside, she gasped. There, nestled among old clothes and faded photographs, was a pile of bones. Human bones. The radio crackled, static. Tom fiddled with the dial. He was driving home from a camping trip, miles from anywhere. He needed to find a signal, any signal. Then he heard it. A faint voice, speaking in a language he didn't understand. The voice was low, melodic, almost hypnotic. Tom found himself drawn in. He couldn't turn the radio off. He drove for hours, the strange voice his only companion. The sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Tom felt a growing unease. He had to turn back. As he reached for the dial, the voice on the radio stopped. A moment of silence. Then a single word spoken in clear, perfect English. Stop. The mirror was beautiful, ornate, silver-backed with an antique charm. It had been her grandmother's. Now it hung in Alice's bedroom, a reminder of her past. One night, Alice woke to a strange sound. A soft tapping coming from the mirror. She sat up in bed and looked at it. The mirror seemed to shimmer, and then she saw it, a face, staring out at her from the glass. It wasn't her reflection. This face was pale, gaunt, with eyes that burned like hot coals. Alice stared back, paralyzed with fear. The mouth on the reflected face moved, forming words she couldn't hear. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the face was gone. The mirror was just a mirror again. Alice told herself it was a dream, but deep down, she knew better. Something was trapped in that mirror, something evil. The train screeched to a halt. The doors hissed open. Emma was the only passenger left. The platform was deserted, dimly lit, covered in dust and cobwebs. She checked her watch. 2:13 a.m. This wasn't her stop. She looked for a sign, a timetable, anything. There was nothing. Just the empty platform and the oppressive silence. Then, she saw it. At the far end of the platform, a single door. Above it, a faded sign, B13. Emma hesitated. She had a bad feeling about this, but she had no other choice. She had to get off this train. She walked towards the door, her footsteps echoing in the silence. As she reached for the handle, she heard it, a low growl coming from the other side of the door. Emma froze. The growl grew louder, angrier. She backed away, her heart pounding in her chest. She turned and ran, back towards the train, but the train was gone. The elevator lurched to a stop, the doors creaked open. A wave of cold, stale air washed over me. I stepped out into a long, dark corridor. The air was thick with the smell of dust and decay. I had been following the clues for weeks. Strange symbols, whispered rumors, a hidden message in an old book. They all led me here, to this place. B13. A place that didn't officially exist. I walked down the corridor, my footsteps echoing in the silence. The walls were bare concrete, cold and damp. The only light came from a single flickering bulb hanging from the ceiling far ahead. As I got closer, I saw that the bulb illuminated a steel door. There was no handle, no hinges, just a small slot at eye level. I knew what I had to do. I took a deep breath and looked through the slot. What I saw on the other side made my blood run cold. It was a vast chamber filled with strange machinery and pulsing lights. But that wasn't what terrified me. It was the creatures moving among the machines, creatures that looked vaguely human but with long, sharp claws and eyes that glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. I stumbled back from the door, my heart pounding in my chest. I had seen enough. I turned to flee, but the corridor behind me was gone. The walls had closed in, trapping me in this nightmare. I was trapped in B13, with creatures that defied all known laws of nature, and I knew, with a sickening certainty, that I would never escape.